It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Friday, August 1st, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that's looking at what depth players are doing in the rebuild.
We're really looking at it through a microscope now.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade, and I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 20 years, Russ Cohen. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter, and of course here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're going to look at guys like Garnet Hathaway and Nick Seeler and the role they play in this part of the rebuild relative to, will we even need guys like them 2-3 years from now? Presumably not, but we're going to get into it, as well as look at the results of the poll question we asked you this week about who has the most to prove on the Flyers this upcoming season. Before that, just want to get caught up on the World Junior Summer Showcase and a couple of other items. The Athletic put out their best and worst contracts list out there. And, you know, they have their own criteria, but the reason why we're talking about it is because Sean Couturier was on that list, his contract at 6th worst overall. We just talked about him on our Wednesday show relative to where do the veterans fit into the rebuild and what are the stakes for them this upcoming season. And we actually talked about his contract a little bit as part of that discussion. And I think that to put it on a worst contracts list is a little bit of a misnomer. Is it a challenge for the Flyers to deal with that contract now? Absolutely. Not going to deny it. But at the time of signing, he was one of the top two-way forwards in the league, was in the Selke conversation. He earned this contract. And to me, when you have a contract making, $7.75 million, ostensibly for your 1C, who's an award-winning player, an elite player in the league, if there's an injury later on that causes the nature of that contract to be more difficult to handle, it's not a bad contract. To me, it's still not a bad contract because it was good at the time of signing.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where when it was signed, it was good.
Yeah.
It's not aging great. I get that. But there's worse contracts. It's easy to stumble on worse contracts. So as an example, and again, I didn't make this list, but whatever. So Mika Zibanejad. So he last 2 years.
Who's not on the list of worst contracts, but continue.
Which is crazy. 2 years ago, 72 points. Last year, 62 points. Faceoffs, 52%. Up from 49 the year before. Couturier is better on faceoffs. He's worse on points. That contract is running until 29-30 at a rate of 8.5. And
so more than Couturier.
And right now, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, actually, no, sorry. I'm 1, 2, 3, 4 more years of no move. And he's already said he holds the hammer. And so how is that not worse? Of course it's worse. I don't know what the metrics are that they're looking at, but that's worse. And it wasn't hard to find. He was one of the first guys that came to mind for me.
Right. And that's why I just think the context has to be taken into consideration because to me, for instance, a guy that's on that list is Ivan Provorov, and he should be on that list, right? Because at the time of signing, it was a bad contract.
That was flagged the minute it was signed. The league office, a little light should have went off. Uh-oh, look at this one. We all knew.
Right. Exactly. So anyway, that's my beef with the Athletic worst contracts list.
I'm pretty sure I would not like the list. I could easily poke holes, but we move on.
The World Junior Summer Showcase is continuing, and we had Canada's intra-squad game.
Which
Porter
got
Martone
so much coverage. Like, I can't even tell you the
It-
amount of coverage for an inter-squad game.
for a scrimmage.
This is a record for coverage for an inter-squad game. I'm clearly going to put that out there. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, let's put it in context against the actual game that they played against Finland, which Canada lost 6-3, by the way. So I think it's interesting because in an intra-squad game, Porter Martone was on the top line, and you're like, okay, is he going to still be on the top line?
Right.
And they consolidate. Yes, he was. He was on the top line with Cole Reshney and Gavin McKenna, which,
Okay. It's a hell of a line.
What a line, right? Porter Martone scored first in that game against Finland, but then Finland basically took over the game and won 6-3, right?
Okay.
So the purpose of this summer showcase to me is to work out the kinks of your team.
Yes,
I
player
think,
combination, see who
yeah.
works well.
So like win-loss, you don't really put too much stake in it. But if you're Team Canada, you always put something into
Everything
it, right?
means something when they step out on the ice. We know this.
Right. So I think Porter Martone played well, but I wouldn't say spectacularly per se, but none of Team Canada did overall.
Yeah,
I think
I mean,
in that game.
There's nothing that bothered me in that game. Matter of fact, I thought it was good. And again, I'm not really watching. I'm seeing some highlights. It's fine. Like, for Porter Martone, fine.
Yeah, I think so. And I think first off, this is just a good opportunity for him to make his mark and figure out, where he is going to be in this lineup when they do kick into World Junior season. Obviously, he's focused on Michigan State as well.
Yeah, he's
all
going
of
to
that
be at a
coming up.
different level from this after being at Michigan State, then going
For a
into the World
semester, yeah.
Juniors. It's going to be different. You're going to see a different guy because the level of competition is going to rise so much, and whatever training he gets in during that time is going to matter. So, like, it's almost like you're going to see a different Porter Martone. So the guy you see today, it's going to be a different guy, even better.
Yeah, and you look at his quotes from the summer showcase about the decision to go to Michigan, and it's very clear he knows that this is the right thing to do, and it'll help Team Canada in the long run.
Did he mention the money or no?
No, of course he didn't mention the money, but it's all about his hockey development here. And I thought it was interesting though that like one of the quotes that came out of that, he said, at the same time I sat down and thought with my camp, and I did include the Flyers as well, what was going to make me the best player 5 to 10 years down the road when the Flyers are trying to win the Stanley Cup. And love that sentence.
Oh no, listen, I believe it. Like I said, when I had that conversation away from everything and we're just two guys watching the draft happen, and we're watching to see who the Flyers are going to pick, and he kind of clues me in because I'm looking down at my phone because I'm trying to catch up desperately from videos I've taken. I could tell what kind of guy he is. I got a better opportunity to tell then than I would have just in the scrum. And so, like, he means all this. I get it. He is a winner. He wants to win. It's great.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. Now, on the flip side, that team Finland had Heikki Ruohonen as its 1C in that game. He had a tremendous game, I thought. He just looks really, really good right now. He looks really confident, and he's just really becoming a leader on that
no question.
Finland junior team.
When he plays internationally, you see a little different Ruohonen than you're seeing otherwise. And so I feel like he really rises to the occasion, and maybe is just so comfortable with these players that he gets that extra boost. I think we'll eventually see that in other leagues, but right now I do feel like that's where we see it most.
Yeah, Max Westergaard was not in the lineup for that particular game, but that, again, they're just mixing and matching in this particular tournament. Team USA played Team Sweden. This is the consolidated Team USA. Jack Murtagh was not in the lineup. I think it has something to do with the rotation. I didn't see anything about an injury out there.
Going.
Yeah, but Shane Vansaghi played on the fourth line in that particular game, so he didn't get a ton of ice time, but pretty solid, I would
That's
say.
probably what's going to happen if he makes the World Junior team. Like, that's his role.
Yep. And I think that's fine, to be
Yeah.
honest. I
If
think
he
for him
makes
to be
it, he's still an if.
right. I think there is a huge upside to him making the team, even without
Yes.
getting the ice time, because just being
Yeah.
around that environment will help his development.
Oh, no question. I mean, you could go back and look at all the guys that got boosts from playing on winning or losing World Junior teams. It matters.
It really does. Now, again, on the flip side of that game, which was won by Sweden 6-3, Jack Berglund is having a good old time right now.
But
He's looked,
we would
we
expect
know
that
this,
because
right?
physically he's way ahead a lot of
Yeah.
these guys at this age. So, like, I would expect nothing less. Now, when the rubber hits the road, when he goes back to Sweden, it's different because then he's playing against men again. So, like, he does have a little bit of an edge here physically. We saw that in camp, and he's carrying that through, and that's all good because I do think he's a future NHLer. It's just a matter of where's he going to play, what line. But that's his development's going good.
It really is. And, he had 2 goals in this game,
Mhm.
played 1C, and his size, he knows how to use it to his advantage
Oh,
so
yeah.
well. Like, he uses that reach. I mean, first off, he's just a giant. His arms are so long,
Yeah.
and you could just see he can use that reach to get the puck. And I just was super impressed. And his shot on the second goal was a really good shot. I think USA was caught looking a little bit on it, but I do think that Jack Berglund in particular has looked good in this tournament so far. They will have another chance against Canada today. And Finland is playing Team USA. And then on Saturday, they switch it up, and Sweden versus Finland and Canada versus USA. So that is the rest of your World Junior Summer Showcase. We will talk about that on the Monday show. In the meantime, we're looking at guys like Garnet Hathaway,
Mhm.
like a Nick Seeler. What role are they playing now? What is their purpose versus, like, do we even need them in 2 to 3 years? We're going to talk about that coming up next. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day. You suddenly realize you want to be in the stands, and that's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple, and prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. They've got incredible last minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Gametime is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting upcoming game. The Phillies are at home for the next little stretch versus the Tigers and the Orioles. So that's always fun, little interleague play. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. On the Monday show, we will wrap up the World Junior Summer Showcase. Plus, we'll have a new nemesis of the week and a new poll question, which we're going to get to the results of this week later in the show. On our Wednesday show, in addition to talking about some of the veterans like Sean Couturier, who still has a good contract, in my opinion. It's not great, but it's good.
It ain't great.
Anyway,
I'll say
it
that.
ain't great, but it was good at the time. Still going to defend it. We talked a lot about, and you brought up specifically, Russ, there are guys that get you there, and there's guys that you want when you are there, right?
Yeah.
So get them there versus be there. And I think that's an important thing with the Flyers in this kind of hinge point year we're going to have this upcoming season relative to the rebuild. And that's where guys like Garnet Hathaway on the front end and Nick Seeler on the back end come into play, and what their contracts look like and when they run out relative to the rebuild and what they can contribute now as part of the get them there conversation. So like with Garnet Hathaway, he's signed a 2-year deal last summer. So he's got one more year left in this deal. He's it's the second 2-year deal that Briere has signed him to, right? So
Yes.
very incremental, very smart about it. A $2.4 million cap hit. He's 33. I feel like maybe this will be it for him, but like after this contract is over, like
Oh,
he'll
I
play
feel
it
it
out.
before that. I don't think it's
Yeah.
going to play out.
You
I
don't
feel
think the
like
entire remaining
no.
contract will play out?
No, I feel like if they are not in the playoff race, they should trade him. Now, will they? Does that mean they will? It doesn't mean they will. But if you start really looking at things like, yes, he had 10 goals. Okay. Is he going to have 10 this year? Doubtful, but he might. 2 of them were shorthanded, 1 game winner. Okay. The rest, how much would you miss if you didn't have him? You'll miss his defense a little bit. You miss his penalty killing and maybe a guy who's going to step up and fight. I think they have other guys that are going to come up that could do that. And so it's like at this deadline, is it worth it when he's going to be 34 or close to it to hang on to him for another year? No, I think you should sell him because I feel like if you wait, then he could end up being like what Nick Delorier is now, a higher functioning version, but similar where it's like, all right, now what do we do with him? You don't want to get to that point. You want to kind of sell him high.
Right. And I guess I'm thinking about more, will Garnet Hathaway, the player, play out those 2 years of his contract
He will.
regardless if he's
No,
on the
he will.
Flyers?
He will.
And I think that's where I'm saying I think he
Okay.
will, and then
I
he's
agree
going to
with that.
retire.
Yes.
Yeah, I do think, though, there's a possibility he could get traded because I think it'll depend on how Dvorak does. I think if Dvorak takes on that role but can contribute more, it kind of reduces the need for a Garnet Hathaway.
Yeah, I think there's something there. And yeah, they play different positions, but I think what you're saying as far as role is similar. So yeah, I feel like there's other players too that are not far away that can do those things. So it's like,
Right, exactly.
yeah. So I feel like you should trade him high. That's just my feeling.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that he is definitely one of those who has helped get us here to
Yes.
this point.
And he got
And,
rewarded, and that's
and
fair.
it's just interesting because signing Garnet Hathaway to a 2-year deal last year seemed reasonable, very logical. And
Mhm.
I don't know that you sort of expected it to turn where we don't need him this soon.
Right.
But I feel like we are. And
We
I think
also,
that's a good thing for the Flyers.
yeah, I think the big thing to remember is now that we're out of the torch system, it could change his effectiveness too. It could. We don't know yet.
It could. It could. Now, on the Nick Seeler side of things, I think that's a more interesting part of the
It is.
conversation. Now, he's got 3 more years at 2.7 million. He's got a no trade clause for this season, but then it goes away.
Right.
So that's what makes it really fascinating because he would have to waive that in order to get dealt. But also, as we've been talking about, the blue line is a little bit behind the forwards as far as development and in this rebuild for the Flyers, right?
Yeah, I'm okay with this year, keeping him this year. He's third in the league the last 3 years with block shots. It's a lot of block shots. It's Jacob Trouba, Braden McNabb, and him. So
Right. And it's taken a toll. Like
it
it's
is.
very
Oh,
obviously
we see
taken a
he's
toll.
getting more banged up. He's playing more injured. But for one more year, while the goaltending's in flux and they're still working out the kinks, fine. Next year, I would trade him over the summer because I still think you could trade him to a team that's lacking defense or at least a shot blocker.
Who needs a Nick Seeler like we did 2 years
Correct.
ago, right?
Right. Whether that's Chicago, San Jose, somebody like that, maybe even Utah, who knows? The salary's reasonable, obviously. He could play bottom pair. And so, yeah, I just feel like after this year, that's probably it. Because now he's going to have probably another 200 block shots. You could only have so many of those 200 block shot seasons.
Right. And I think that's where like the Flyers won't need him at that point.
Right.
They just won't because I feel like the development of these other guys that we've been talking about will be at the place. We'll be looking at a Bonk making his NHL debut for sure by that point. Not this upcoming season, but the following season. Bonk has the potential to be a regular there, right? Hunter McDonald has the potential to be a regular. And especially with McDonald, I feel like when
he could
he's
be
going to
that
be
guy.
ready, he could be that guy. And so we
Right.
just won't need Seeler at that
Right.
point. And McDonald will be
Also,
very much cheaper. And I just think that's where we're at.
Also, I think Torts overplayed him, and I think that hurt him last year. 17 minutes, over 17 minutes on average for Nick Seeler is a lot. When you're asking him to go through that kind of punishment, I think if they lowered it to 15 on average, he could last a little better.
I think so. I really do. And it's a really interesting turning point here for both of these guys and for the blue line, because I think also Torts was very, very attached to Nick Seeler and Nick Seeler's
but he's good for the team. He's
play.
Good in the room. Like, we know this guy, and for right now, it's good. In another year, he's 31, all these block shots. By the time he's 32, if you still have him on your team with all those block shots, you're starting to question the contract a little bit. Not because of the money, just because, hey, where could we use him? What's he going to be most effective?
Exactly. And that's why I worry about the trade possibility a little bit, but that's sort of across that bridge when you get there. But
I don't think they'll go out of their way to trade him this year, especially since he'd have to approve it. They might.
No, I mean the following year.
Yeah, the following year, I think it's ripe for that. I do.
Yeah, just with still 2 more years left on the deal, I'm wondering what team is going to take that on for 2 more years as opposed to 1 more year.
Another rebuilding team. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think that's
what he's perfect for. Like, that's the role.
We'll see what happens with these guys. Maybe Garnet Hathaway will step into the broadcast booth. As we know, last summer he did an NHL player media summer camp. So that's something he's thinking about.
I covered Jody Shelley. I see Jody Shelley twice a year.
Great.
And he's great. So I could see it.
He's great in the booth. So we'll see if he decides to move in that direction. In the meantime, some of the other guys on the Flyers have a lot more at stake than these two this upcoming season. We asked you who has the most to prove, and we're going to look at those results coming up next. All right, we asked you who on the Philadelphia Flyers roster has the most to prove this upcoming season. We asked you to say why you picked who you did, and maybe if there's somebody else that we didn't put as one of our choices, you could put that in the comments. Our choices we gave to you were Sam Ersson, Jamie Drysdale, Cam York, and Trevor Zegras. And I think the theme in a lot of the comments, which is fair, and that's something we talked about with all these guys on the Monday show, is the guys that are in contract years have a lot to prove in particular. And that's 3 out of the 4. Cam York is the only one not in a contract year. So I think that's kind of what led to him being the lowest percentage getter here at 12%. I usually start at the most, but I'm starting at the least because of this dynamic here. And I think that's fair. Like, if you're not in a contract year, you just got the deal. Do you have a lot to prove? I mean, you could argue that yes, because it's a new coach and a new system, and what is your role going to be over the course of this contract you just signed? The stakes are big for Cam York, but are they as big as somebody who's in a contract year? Maybe not.
No, I agree. I think contract year is bigger. It's always bigger.
Now, on the other side of things, the top vote getter with 36% of the vote was Trevor Zegras.
It's interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have expected that, but I guess the 1C question, which right now will be filled by Couturier, and at least the 2C for Zegras, can he play it? I guess has become a big thing, because they traded for him. Their hopes are there. It's not a ton of money, but it's a fair amount of money, and then he has to get paid. So I guess there's a little more urgency with him than York, because York has sort of proved where he could stick, and Zegras, we don't know yet.
Right. And there were several comments to that effect. Brendan said, I went with Zegras. He's been talked up as a target for over a year. Yes, the price was great, but he's going to have to produce. Robert
Stop it
said,
right there. So that's a
yeah.
thing. Expectations shouldn't like fall on the player, but it's a reality. And I think what he said is right. The fact that he has been talked up for this long, the expectations are now up here. If they, if they brought in Christian Dvorak before Montreal did and said, hey, he's going to be our center, there'd be no expectations. They'd be like, oh, okay, we see if he can fill the role. But this guy has a lot of expectations, this particular player.
Right. And Francis said, I chose Zegras for a few reasons. One, it's his contract year. Two, it's the fact that he's trying to reestablish his career. Third is that it really affects the Flyers' true needs at center, which is what you talked about, Russ.
It's true. All of it's true.
Yeah. Now, the person that I probably would have voted for was the second highest vote getter at 29%, and that's Sam Ersson. Yep. I think that, as we talked about on the Monday show, if you haven't listened, go back. We had a whole discussion about what's at stake for Sam Ersson this season. And, I think Jeff has the most pointed comment of anybody about it here, saying Ersson, unlike the others, would be facing the challenge of staying in the NHL if he has another poor year.
I think he'd still get an NHL job as a backup, as a true backup, not even like a 1B. So he would have an NHL job. But everything else, any other kind of position, he's right. And the interesting thing is this. We always hear that the organization is still really high on Sam. That's what we hear. Is that really true, though? Because if it were true, I think they would have already given him a bigger contract, but he hasn't shown it, right? So I think it's a little bit of lip service, to be fair. I think that's just what they're projecting out there because he happens to be their best option. And sometimes teams do that, and I get it. I get why they do that. So, again, there are a lot of goaltenders in the same position as Sam. There's numerous teams that have guys. Yeah, he's not alone. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But this is it. Like after this year, there's no more excuses that could be made. You can't go with, well, he was hurt this time, or he came in this time, or he had this coach. Like after this, those pretty much are over for at least with the Flyers.
Right. And so Casimo commented, I picked Sam Ersson, need to know what he is this year or go find a starter. The team is ready to compete. And that's exactly where it is. And I think, Dan Vladar was brought in, I think, partially because they need some better goaltending, but also to kind of give Sam Ersson a little bit of a push, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think he had much of a push last year from the other two guys. No offense to the other guys. And I just feel like one of them was here just for a paycheck, Kolosov. Like not to say he doesn't want to win. He does, but he's not good enough to win, but he wants the paycheck. So that's never a good situation. And then Fedotov, I think, is just a good guy. And I don't think he pushed Sam at all. Now, that doesn't mean he didn't want the job. He clearly does. But his play didn't say that for Fedotov. So, that's just where that fell. And the problem with that is his salary makes it worse for him. So at least Sam's salary is reasonable. So he's got that going for him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Now, Jamie Drysdale was not too far behind. That's what was interesting. So we had Zegras at 36%, Ersson at 29%, Drysdale at 24%. So not like far off percentage-wise.
And it shouldn't be, because it's another thing. Like, we know what the all-important inflection points are right now with this team. And, that power play quarterback is it. And so is he it? And this is it. He's getting this season or part of this season to prove that.
Right. And so Aquapong commented, I chose Drysdale without Torts. Hopefully York can relax and play second line D-man. We didn't acquire Zegras for much. So if he works out, it's kind of found money despite the pedigree. And Ersson is a backup we've tried to shoehorn into a starting role. However, Drysdale will be an RFA. I'm sure we'd give him another year due to his age, but he'd have pretty good leverage looking for a long-term deal if he has a good year and is the QB of a much improved power play. Like, that's exactly it. Right?
I think that's what the team wants. Like, they'll have money to spend. So I don't think it's a negative that I know a lot of times people will look at it and say, well, look, the team can get him cheap because he didn't have a great year. I think the team wants him to have a great year, and they are prepared to pay him if he does.
Exactly. And I think that's what this commenter is saying.
Yeah.
He meaning Drysdale would have pretty good leverage
Yep.
looking for a longer term deal if he has that good year and is
Yeah.
playing that power play role that the Flyers so desperately need.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, since Shane Gostisbehere stopped being Shane Gostisbehere, they really haven't had that guy.
That is wow. That is a little painful, but also true.
But
Sometimes
it's true.
you need to tell
You
the
need to
truth.
hear it. Yeah.
Yep, you do. Now, Seamus said that it's Dan Vladar, who was not one of our choices here, and said if he plays well, he could potentially come out of the season with a full-time starter role that could last him 4 to 5 years and possibly more as a permanent number 2. 30 games is the most he's ever started at the NHL level. That was only last year. He should get 40 games this year. As we've seen, Erson's play deteriorates the more he plays.
I think that's true if the same goes for Sam. If he's looking like the same Sam, then I think they will go that route simply to see what he is. Because you're right. Vladar, I mean, last year could have been Vladar's year, except Dustin Wolf stole it from him and he's not getting it back, right? So he got traded. It's fine. I think that I would do the same thing. Like, I wouldn't be as patient with Sam as probably others would be. With a new coach, especially, I'd probably give him 15 games. And if I look at 15 games, even if his save percentage is up a little bit, but if he's not at league average for save percentage, if I'm a new coach and look, I don't know Sam from Adam if I'm a new coach. I was just walking in here. Yes, I've seen him in Four Nations, but I don't really know him, right? You don't face him a lot. If I don't see league average out of him, and I have to start asking questions as a coach, like, what else we got?
Yeah, well, that's what the Kim Dillabaugh role is ostensibly for. So all of these are really, important questions on guys that have big stakes this upcoming season. And that's why we talked about the stakes this week. We're going to switch gears and talk about something new next week, as well as have a new poll question, a new nemesis of the week on Monday. And as a reminder, we always want to hear from you. If you've got questions or Flyers thoughts, let us know on any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There is no offseason. It brings you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.